Hello there and welcome once again to The Verdict. I'm Mick Cornett along with Kent Myers. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues, and we bring in a guy today who's on the front lines.
Indeed. A friend and longtime Chancellor of the Regents for Higher Education, Glen Johnson's joining us again for the 8th time, I'm pleased to say. And he's got a lot to talk about the state of higher education, what's on the upswing, what's perhaps on the downswing. And he's just going to give us a report card, if you will, on higher education.
All right, Glen Johnson's our guest today on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
I went to college at the University of San Diego. I went to medical school at Yale School of Medicine. I did my internship at Harvard and then my residency at Columbia in New York City. My name is Whitney Tolpenrud. I'm a dermatologist and I am Chickasaw. I always knew that somehow I would figure out a way to give back to my tribe, to say thank you. So I've been coming to the hospital now for about a year. I come for 2 days consecutively every other month. I can't describe to you the level of satisfaction and humility that it's been able to provide to my life. And that is just so energizing and reminds me why I went into this to begin with.
See more stories about the Chickasaw people at profilesofanation.com.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Well, as we talked about in the opening segment, our guest today is Chancellor Glen Johnson of the Regents for Higher Education. Not surprisingly, Glen had a spectacular education record. He graduated from the University of Oklahoma, Phi Beta Kappa. He graduated from OU Law with honors. Everything he's done has been truly outstanding in the education and other areas of his life. When he got elected to the House of Representatives, he ascended during his tenure there to the top job as Speaker of the House of Representatives. He has been an adjunct professor and a professor at the University of Oklahoma, and in 2007 he assumed the position of Chancellor of the Regents for Higher Education. As we talked about, this is Glen's 8th appearance. Glen, welcome. Sure glad to have you.
Well, great to be back.
Welcome back.
Mick, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's good to start this show with just kind of an overview, first of all, of the position itself. When would you, if you know the history of the position,
Sure.
the position of Chancellor, and then kind of on the flow chart where it fits in with all of the other officials.
Okay, the position started, the voters in 1941, after we had been a state approximately 33, 34 years, felt that a central coordinating board would be important. To that point, any institution that wanted to start could start a law school, a med school. There were program duplications. There was not a board that centrally coordinated either programs or funding. So in 1941, the governor at that time, Governor Red Phillips from Okemah, submitted a bill to the legislature that ultimately went to a vote of the people that created the state regents and thus the chancellor's position. The chancellor is the CEO of the state system, and we're a coordinating board, which essentially means we review academic programs, we make the request for funding to the legislature on behalf of the entire system, all 25 colleges and universities. We administer scholarship programs led by our Oklahoma's Promise scholarship. We administer our OneNet telecommunication system and perform that coordinating function for the state system, as opposed to our governing boards like Oklahoma State University, University of Oklahoma, which are responsible for the day-to-day management issues, hiring the president, approving the building contracts and things of that nature. So that's the history of the position. I am appointed by the 9-member state regents who each serve 9-year terms. Our newest regent is former Speaker of the House, Jeff Hickman from Fairview, who came on in May and is definitely hit the ground running. He's already doing a great job. So,
Well, how's it been going since you've been on the job now several years? Refresh my memory. When did you become?
I was at Southeastern Oklahoma State University, as Kent mentioned, for 10 years. I started this job in January of 2007, so I've been on a little over 10 years.
Yeah, it's longer than I expected. It's gone quickly then, I
It
bet.
has.
Yeah.
It has. Time has flown.
Well, how's it changed over the years and then the last 12 months? I know we're tiring.
Well, they have been. Obviously, to a large degree, our jobs are related to the funding cycles, and of course, as we all know, since 2008 and 9, we've been, and with the particularly 3 years ago when the energy sector took a bit of a dive, it's been harder. There have been budget shortfalls, and it's been particularly difficult in higher education because even though there's been the budget shortfalls, our enrollment has continued to rise. So we've had a difficult situation where we've had more students with less resources. 2 years ago, we took a large cut, a 16% cut, which equated to about $153 million, required reduction in faculty in some instances, not offering courses that students needed to graduate on time, reduction in scholarships, athletic programs, really great programs like our concurrent enrollment program where high school seniors can take courses for college credit. We've had to cut back on those. This last year, the session that ended in May, the cut was 6%, while it's certainly on the heels of a 16% cut. We're looking now over the last 2 years of having about 22% cut out of the higher education budget. So it's been difficult. I think it's remarkable that even in light of all that, we still are hitting our numbers on our goals for degree completion, and by any number of reports, still are viewed as one of the most affordable systems in the country. Our student debt numbers, we're 10th lowest in terms of students leaving our colleges and universities with the least amount of debt. So even with the budget challenges that we have, I think we're still doing frankly a great job with the resources we have. But bottom line is you can't do that indefinitely, and particularly as we look at some of the things that are coming online, we need to produce the graduates to fill the job needs in this state. If we don't do that, those jobs will go to students in other states, and that's nobody wants that. Our employers, our business community doesn't, certainly from our perspective, we don't, and our students obviously don't either.
Well, Glenn, you mentioned that enrollment was up over
Yes.
previous years. How is the retention rate? You're getting big numbers in. Are you able to keep an appropriate number?
The good news is they are better, and they're continuing to improve, Kent. University of Oklahoma just hit a record high this year in terms of their retention rate, over 75%.
And by retention rate, we mean
once students start college, then those that stay in college and ultimately move through our process to where they graduate. And that's our goal. Well, our goal certainly is to increase enrollment, but if we don't retain those students and improve our graduation rates, that's the ultimate outcome that we're striving for. Actually, we want them to stay in Oklahoma and have jobs in Oklahoma after they graduate. But both at University of Oklahoma and Oklahoma State University, retention rates have improved significantly, and that's by design. Both of them have implemented a number of intensive programs in terms of advisement. OSU has a LASSO program that has greatly improved retention. At our regional university level, again, a number of initiatives, more intrusive advisement, checking earlier in the process to make sure if they need help with a tutor that we're there to do that. And at our 2-year college level, the rates have improved as well. So that's part of our overall goal with Complete College America. We have set goals to improve our graduation rates, and obviously to do that, we've got to continue to improve retention each year. And again, we're on track, we're meeting our goals, and it is remarkable in light of the budget challenges we've had.
Let me follow up on the general subject of retention. with the almost 22% reduction you've had over a period of 2 years in funding, have you been able to retain your faculty?
Well, it's becoming more of a challenge. I think I've got to say, in some instances, faculty, they'll have options,
Sure.
and those options in other states, frankly, in some instances, provide a larger compensation package. So the short and correct answer is we have lost some. Thankfully, we haven't lost a great number, and I think that speaks to the commitment that our faculty have to their institutions and, quite frankly, to their students and to our state in terms of the responsibilities they have. But again, it's like anything else, Kent. The longer that we go with repeated reductions, I think you're going to have some, particularly those that can be flexible.
Yeah.
And have options. I think they're going to obviously look at, they have to make decisions for themselves and their families, and if this budget situation continues to go down the line of reductions year after year after year, I think some of those faculty, unfortunately, will look at other options in other states, and that's the last thing we need to happen. We've got a great product here, we've got a great state, and we just need to give them the resources where they can teach our students the courses that our students need to take on time, where they can graduate on time. And then our data shows that 84% of those students stay in the state of Oklahoma and have jobs in the state of Oklahoma 1 year after graduation.
Wow.
So that's a great number. We developed that data with the state's Employment Security Commission from our office at the state regions.
Glenn, what is the relationship, if any, with your position and private universities around the state?
Well, we do have a relationship, and I think it's a very good one. It's a strong one. It's one that I've tried to enhance as we move on. We have several scholarships programs. Our tuition equalization grant, where while we administer it, we administer the program with our private colleges and universities. In research, our EPSCoR program, which provides, we are the apparatus that brings the money in. When I say we, the state regents. But we have our private institutions that participate in that endeavor with us as well, and they are very, very active. We apply for grants with the National Institute of Health, the National Science Foundation, Department of Defense, NASA, and we work very, very closely with them. Now, while we're not involved in the coordination or governance, they have their own structure for that. I found that on many initiatives, a good example is our degree completion initiative. We actually have partnered with our private colleges in that endeavor as well, and they've been extremely helpful. Programs like, I think the higher ed community is united that we believe the current law is working with regard to weapons on campus, and whether it's been our private institutions or our publics, we all believe that any legislation that allows weapons on campus really only creates a more dangerous environment for students and faculty and staff. And so we partner on a lot of issues, and it's a great relationship in my view.
Glen Johnson is the Chancellor for Higher Education. We'll be right back with another segment on the verdict.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
Welcome back to the set of the verdict. We are visiting with Glen Johnson, the Chancellor for Higher Ed in Oklahoma. Does your department have goals? Do you set goals for the upcoming year?
We do. We have, and we're in that process right now for the 2018 legislative session. We will, in December, prior to the start of the session, roll out our legislative agenda and our budget agenda request as well. And essentially, our public agenda goals are some that probably wouldn't be that surprising: to continue to increase the number of college graduates in the state, to provide access and to college to students on an even greater basis, but at the same time to continue to improve the quality of the academic product for students, and to make sure that our students have the resources to critically think, to problem solve, and to analyze where they can be successful in today's economy. We certainly, as we set our goals for the year, our budget is always front and center, and we're in the process of framing that as we speak. We will continue, I'm sure, because it's been a component of our legislative agenda the last decade, to oppose any legislation to permit weapons on campus. We will continue to preserve and enhance our Oklahoma's Promise Scholarship, which is viewed as one of the best college access programs in the country this year. And I want to thank the governor and the legislature. They increased the parents' income limit for the first time since 2000 from $50,000 to $55,000. So that's been a great step in providing access to that scholarship to more students. Since 1992, over 76,000 students have had the opportunity to avail themselves of that scholarship. It's really been it's been a game changer in terms of students that otherwise probably wouldn't have had the chance to go to college, to give them that opportunity to attend college. In terms of goals, we additionally, you may have noticed in May, we launched a task force on the future of higher education. There really had not been a deep dive in over 30 years into how we're structured, and we thought, the Regents and I thought, it was time, with all the changes in technology, frankly, with the budget environment the way it was, to come forward and make sure we're being as efficient as we can be, leverage technology to the extent that we can. And so we've launched that initiative. We've broken it into 4 areas. The first is degree completion and workforce. The second is the online space, to make sure that students that want to take some or part of their college experience online, that we remove the barriers for those students to do that, but at the same time making sure that the academic rigor is strong, whether it's a traditional course or an online course. We're going to look at system structure in terms, are we structured as efficiently as we should be? And then finally, fiscal solutions and efficiencies, things like looking at back office functions, if there may be a way to, among institutions, combine accounting, payroll, purchasing, human resources, where that's more centrally administered, in order to save money. So I'm really excited. We've had 65 of some of the top business leaders, educators, higher education leaders come together. We've had 2 major meetings, and then the subcommittees have each had about 3 meetings, and we believe we'll have recommendations ready for the new legislative session in February. So it's taking a lot of our time, but frankly, I think it may yield some really solid recommendations that will define what higher education will look like in the future.
Well, it sounds like you fast-tracked it, because you just formed this committee this calendar year, right?
We did, but Mick, we just felt like it was important to do and to go ahead and get started. And once we did that with the goal of having some recommendations for next session, we knew we needed to really move in the summer and fall, and that's what we're doing. But I think it's exciting, and frankly, again, with all of the changes that are occurring, we believe we have a responsibility to come forward, and just from the discussion at this point, I think they're going to be very meaningful recommendations.
Glenn, from time to time, I hear on a per capita basis, Oklahoma has an awful lot of colleges and universities,
right,
compared to the rest of the states. Do we have too many?
Well, I think that's, let me respond in a couple of ways. First and foremost, we are, as a state, we're still below the national average in terms of the percentage of our citizens with college degrees. Nationally, that percentage is right at 30%. In Oklahoma, it's 24%. So we have work to do, but through our Complete College America initiative, we're moving to close that gap. So I think there's an argument in one way, we need to provide all the access to college that we can, but arguably with some of the changes that have occurred in technology, with the onset of online education, that may be easier to do in ways other than additional buildings and the traditional structure. So to answer your question, this is one of the issues we're tackling in this task force. We have I mentioned earlier, we have one subcommittee that's responsible for system structure. And frankly, what we're looking at is what is the most efficient way to align our system. To this point, we've looked at some other states that have actually had mergers between institutions, and we're looking at those models, particularly the state of Georgia, where they've been very effective in that way. So this is it's a very important issue. It's not one you want to just jump in and make any knee-jerk decisions. But my answer is we are looking at that issue in the task force, and I believe if we as a task force and regent group, and I might add, we have legislators, Governor Fallon has a representative on the task force. If we believe that this is the appropriate action and recommendation to take, I believe we'll make some recommendations in this area.
Wichita State University is now offering in-state tuition to Oklahoma high school students.
Right.
Sounds like competition. Is this a trend, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it is, and I might mention we have one of our institutions in Oklahoma that has gone down this road as well, Tulsa Community College. For those residents of Tulsa County, if they meet the criteria, they offer the first 2 years essentially free tuition. Now they're able to do that because when Tulsa Community College was formed in the late 60s, they actually designated part of their ad valorem tax base to the college, so they have more flexibility than our other institutions in that way. But certainly, if you think about it, it's a nice thing to be able to say that if you want to stay, if you're a Tulsa County resident, you want to stay in your home community. If it's such that you're going to need to work and may stay at home, you have the chance for your first 2 years of college to have your tuition defrayed, and that's a pretty big statement. So I think to answer your question, we're looking at options beyond Tulsa Community College. With the challenge that we're having on funding right now, it's harder to do, but it's certainly something that we're looking at.
Glenn, you mentioned earlier that one of the goals is to graduate students that can meet the work needs that are present in Oklahoma. How are you addressing that? Is that a significant problem, or are you making real progress?
Well, it is a bit of a problem. We had as I mentioned, our degree completion goals are continuing to increase, but we feel pressure in that last year Georgetown University conducted a study for all 50 states, which basically told us what the job needs were going to be in 2020. 2020 is now only 2.5 years away. The report told us that 67% of the jobs in Oklahoma would require some college, a long-term certificate, or an associate's degree. 37% of the jobs would require an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, or higher. Well, that's not a lot of time, and we certainly are the only entity that can produce those graduates with degrees to meet those job needs that our businesses have. And again, if we don't do that, those jobs will go to students who are graduating in other states, and that's not what anybody wants. So I think the pressure we feel because of these budget cuts, we've had to, in some cases, reduce faculty and even reduce courses. Students need to take the courses they need to graduate on time, where they won't have to stay another semester or a year to get their degree. Then they'll be prepared and they will fill these job needs in our state, and that's what builds a stronger and more diversified economy. That's what we want. That's what our students deserve. So I think it's imperative that as we go into this next session, funding higher education's got to be a top priority, and that certainly is going to be our request.
Glen Johnson is the Chancellor for Higher Ed. Loved having you on the show. Thanks for coming back.
Okay,
my
come
pleasure.
back again.
I always enjoy it. Thank you.
Kent and I'll have a final word after this.
There are now 11 million of us who live here and work here. I was 15 when I came here 6 years ago. I raised my family here, drive my truck to my job every day. The only difference between now And 6 years ago, I do it legally. I wanted to. Because this is my home.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be Mom and Dad to me.
I think for us, once we got started and we began to see the tremendous need just within our state, it really was just a calling for us. The blessings far outweigh any obstacles that we've faced.
You will always be Mom and Dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We just enjoyed an engaging show with Glen Johnson.
Yes, Glen is always good to have on. He's always very accommodating to come on when we seek to get him. But he always brings something new and different and exciting to the shows, telling us about what's going on. There's an awful lot going on in higher education, and certainly the trend is positive.
And a lot of people will be watching the budget process coming up here in January and February, and Glen and his people will be right in the middle of it. We have a website. We'd love to give you the address for that so you can find more information about Glen and his cohorts at the Chancellor's office. It is okhighered.org. That's okhighered.org. And we have a website, theverdict.tv. So head there and tell us about a guest you'd like to see or a subject that you'd like to see us visit on a future edition of The Verdict. That's going to do it for this week's show. We'll see you next week.